Hi everyone, welcome to Women in Web3 podcast that celebrate the inspiring stories of women who are shaping the future of technology. I'm your host Kenneth Chu, and in each episode, we dive into the world of Web3 and explore the incredible work done by women in blockchain, NFT, metaverse, and much more. As someone who is passionate about diversity and inclusion in tech, I created this podcast to showcase the achievement and challenges of women who are making waves in the industry. Our goal is to inspire more women to get involved and help to build a world that is more equitable and inclusive for everyone. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest for today's episode. Nicole is an independent young female entrepreneur and a mother of two kids who has successfully built a multi-million dollar brand aimed at empowering Asian women. Nicole founded Asian.io, a project of 8,888 NFT to create a global and inclusive community that will bring together individuals who share an admiration for Asia culture, whereas also representing, educating in the Web3 space. Asian fills the gap, fills the lack of Asian women representation in the Web3 space and celebrates diverse Asia culture and heritage with a NFT collection of 8,088 elegant Asian women's portraits. Asian sold out and trended top 10 project on OpenSea, broke records and generated secondary sales of over 3,000 Ethereum, estimated about USD 9 million within 24 hours. Nicole is passionate about helping other women achieve success and believe in the power and the future of Web3. I'm so happy to have her on the show today to share her insights and experience with us. So without further ado, let us welcome the founder of Asian Mom, Nicole Yap. Let's bring Nicole up. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, hello, good morning.
Welcome. So before we start, right, I would like to thank you for making time. Also early in the morning, to really do this podcast and talk about a topic that is very close to our hearts. And before we start, right, there's a tradition for this Women in Web3 podcast that every guest gets to post the question of the day out to the next guest. And now, are you ready to receive the question of the day posted by the previous guest so that we can officially start
Yeah,
with the show?
what the question?
Okay. So the question of the day will be, if you get to choose to be with one entrepreneur, who would it be and why? And what question would you ask this entrepreneur?
So one entrepreneur that I really look up to is Kris Jenner. So she is the mom of
Mm,
Kylie, Chloe, like the Kardashians. Yeah, I do look up to her because I do think that she has built an empire. She's an entrepreneur, she's a mom, and she is hilarious as well. So I do look up to her in a lot of ways, and I like how that she just takes life as, even she has gone through so many hardships. She has always looked at it in a she doesn't really take life seriously, I think. And a lot of times I do think that even if you are overcoming a bad situation, as long as you have the right mindset and kind of how do I put it? If you actually look at things in a different light, it would, like, the outcome wouldn't be that bad, right? Because bad things happen all the time. It's up to you to kind of um perceive that. Yeah. So yeah, I think it would be Kris Jenner. Yeah.
okay. So what question would you ask Kris
Oh,
Jenner?
what is the question? Oh yeah. I would probably ask her. Mm, I'll probably ask her advice. Like, how do you do it? Yeah.
Good. Thanks a lot. And now we can officially kickstart with the show. And I hope this message go out to her, or maybe I can DM her that this will be the question that you posted. So before we start, maybe for those who are seeing you for the first time, can you give them a little background about yourself and how did you get into this Web3
Yes.
space?
So long story short, I'll try to make it really short. My name is Nicole. I am 26 this year. I have two kids. So my kids are 6 and 3. I'm the founder of 8sian. So 8sian is one of the leading NFT projects from Malaysia. And we have a whole collection of 8,888 NFTs. So this is how it looks like. So it's Asian women, and it's a collection that represents. Oh yeah, you have one. Yeah, this one.
Yes.
Yeah, so we represent most of the Asian cultures. So not only we have the girl in the cheongsam, we have like the sari, the hanbok from Korea, and then the Thai, basically even like the kabaya and all that. And I think it's really beautifully done. I'm super proud of my collection, and I'm really obsessed with it as well. So how I started, I started 2 years ago when I saw that there was a lack of representation in the space. There was a lot of cute animals and profile photos, NFT projects, and I said, hey, where are the Asian women, right? So they don't have that. So this is why I started Asian. Yeah.
Good, good, good. And that also brings us to the topic of our episode. But before we go there, right, I personally have this question, in fact, for all the Women in Web3 podcast guests, which is why did you accept my invitation to be my guest on Women in Web3 podcast, especially coming from a man who is hosting Women in Web3 podcast?
Yeah, so I think um, first I do like what you're doing in this space, giving women a platform to share their stories, and also to empower other women to also look up to. It's kind of like a hub. It's a hub where we could go to look out for other boss women, like entrepreneur women. And I do think that right now, I mean, especially, I don't see a lot of these. So I look up to you in that sense. And also, you have been doing it for how many years now? You have doing it for uh, 6
6
years.
years, and starting from mompreneur and now with this new podcast, which is
Yeah,
Women
so
in
you
Web3.
have been doing
So
this for
about
six
six
years,
years.
and it's so it's a lot of hard work, right? Yeah, so I'm really happy to be a guest, and I'm so glad that you invited me here.
Oh, you're welcome. And also thank you for accepting because like for you, you're a good representation for mompreneur, mothers running business, mother into entrepreneurship, and not just a mompreneur, you are also a women entrepreneur in Web3, right? So that's why I think you are a very good example, especially at your as a young mom, as a young lady, you already achieved so much. You have so much thrive and trailblazing this whole space. So let's talk about our Asia representation in Web3, which is the topic of this episode. So like you mentioned, right, how you started Asian, right, is because of the you want to have more representation of women, Asia culture. So what is your thoughts, right, about the Asia representation as of now in general and also in Web3 space. And this is something that we always talk about. Recently, there's a lot of news like Michelle Yeoh, that she had won awards and because of the movie. And suddenly, there's a huge wave of Asia representation, right? A lot of Asian coming on board. There's more opportunity. So, what are your thoughts about the Asian representation in general? Then we move into Web3, and why is it important to you?
Of course, I mean, as an Asian woman, I want to be represented. I want to have equal representation and opportunities to shine. So I'm really proud of Michelle Yeoh. She's Malaysian, so she is. I'm Malaysian, so I'm super proud. Well, she's from Ipoh, I'm from KL, not too far apart. So yeah, I'm really proud of that, and I think that she put Malaysia on the map. Because when I was traveling a lot, there is still a lot of people that don't know where Malaysia is. And then I would say like, oh, Michelle Yeoh that won the global award. And they're like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, yeah, she's Malaysian. That's where I'm from. And they said, oh, like that. And then they would say, oh, yeah, there's a lot of like pretty girls in Malaysia. I was like, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So that is why I do think that is really important, not just for Malaysians, but for anyone, right? Even if you were to go to school, at work, or any industry or wherever we are at, we want representation of our culture and our color, right? I mean, regardless of whatever we are. um, yeah, so that is my thoughts on that. And in Web3, why is it important in Web3? Because, just as how we want representation in Web2, like, even in movies, you know, fashion, or anything else, we want that to also be in Web3. We want to have our own platform also in Web3. I know that in Web3 we can be anything and whatever we want to. We can be like, I don't know, an ape, a penguin, but for me, I would still want to be myself. So this is why I do think that having an Asian representation in such male dominated or even such a westernized industry at this point, it's really important, because it also kind of makes it relatable for people that want to jump into the space, right? So for Asian, when I started, a lot of our holders, the new holders, they are actually Asian women. And Asian was the reason why they even stepped into Web3, because they saw something that looks like them. So then this is why I do think that representation in any forms is important. So for my role and for Asians' role, right, we are trying to be that in Web3. We're trying to have a platform for women, for the Asian cultures, and not just for Asian women. It can be anyone that appreciates the art. um, but there is definitely a lot of aspects to it that we can definitely have representation in Web3, yeah, alongside with other, like, all of the other fun things that we can do. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And I also realized, right, that you have this what they say, um intention that whenever you attend any events, right, especially big event, you'll be wearing your cheongsam, you're wearing
Traditional
some
outfit.
Asian culture, yeah, outfit. So is that the way, because even you flew to New York, you flew to US, you are also representing. So is it because you mentioned to me before, right, when you start wearing cheongsam, right, your female friends around you
Yeah.
start to wear that, and they became more comfortable. Is that a movement that you want, like for Asian women to be comfortable in our own skin, in terms of the costume, in terms of the representation and all that? Is this something they're looking for, especially coming from yourself, being the leader, being someone who's passionate about it, being someone who wants more Asian representation in
Yeah,
Web3?
definitely. So when I was younger, I didn't like, I don't want to speak Mandarin. I don't want to learn, my mother tongue. I don't want to wear traditional clothing, because for me, I think that was lame, right? Because I want to wear the cool outfits. But then, like, after I became a mom, and that's where I realized that, being Asian, being Malaysian, being Chinese is part of our culture, right? So I want to instill that to my kid. So then that really shifted me after becoming a mom, especially when I heard my daughter saying that she doesn't want to learn Chinese. So that hit me differently, because I didn't want to learn Chinese. So then that's why I do think that it's really important for us to like look up to our, to look back to our roots. And I don't have like I don't speak the most fluent like Hokkien, because my family's Hokkien, but at least I understand it, right? So then this is why I want to change that, because among my friends, we don't even want to wear like traditional clothing anymore. It wasn't like a norm, right, for us to wear traditional. It's
Like,
not
it's not
cool. Yeah,
cool
it's
at all,
definitely not.
right?
Yeah.
We
So
felt.
that was the perception that they had. But 2 years ago, after I started Asian, and I delved right into it, and I needed to play that part, and I started falling in love with traditional costume, not just the Chinese costume, even like the other traditional costumes as well. And me wearing it, a lot of my friends actually started wearing it as well. They said, hey, where did you buy it from? I want to wear it. So yeah, so last year, this year, Chinese New Year, we actually went out in our cheap house, like in our Cheongsam, and we went for dinner, and then we all take photos. And it was the first time I actually saw my friends, like my high school friends, wearing a traditional clothing, right? Because last time we didn't want to wear that because it wasn't cool. So yeah, that was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is also a statement, right? That it can be as cool. when you have a community that's embracing the culture, that's coming together to really represent the part, especially when I saw that Chinese New Year photo that you guys was taking, and everywhere you go, right? Everywhere you go, even for the Sandbox Singapore Partner Day, I was there and saw you, and you wearing the cheongsam basically outshine everyone on stage, right? It's like people will focus on you. I think that is a statement because you are leading. You want it to show it on stage. You to really represent, and it really outshine everyone to really being captured. Even in photos, it looks very distinctive. And at the same time, when you were talking about it, I do not know whether I shared this with you, that I started fashion design and my final year project, right? All my other classmates, they were doing more on the Western cultures because we were doing movies. And I was the only one that was adopting a Asian movie, which is The Last Emperor, right? And I was doing everything under the Qi Pao, under the Qing Dynasty costume. So my collection basically stand out. So I'm someone who really in love with like the Qi Pao, the Qing Dynasty, the costume and all that. And when I see that you are doing that, right, that was also the reason why it attracted to me to really reach out to you to really learn more about what you are doing in Asian, and in any ways that I could support, I would love to support, because I also feel that there are not a lot of Asian representation in this space. And the other thing is about also Asian women. Asian women are not putting on the platform. And as you know, right, I've been doing this, empowering women, especially mothers, in entrepreneurship for the past 6 years. I even did the Mompreneur Space podcast for I just ended season 6 with 120 episodes, and it's still going. So why? Because there isn't a lot. Like you mentioned, when you look around in the podcast space, there's not a lot of women representation, even for male to really embrace it, to really provide the platform, to really highlight the stories. So for your case, right, moving forward, how can we have more Asian representation, and in your own thoughts, especially in the Web3 space, how can we have more Asian representation? Because do you agree with me that there is not really a lot of Asian representation in tech or even in the Web3 space?
So I think that is a good question. This is why for Asian, I'm trying to do more collaborations. So just like we collaborated with Uniqlo, we collaborated with Royal Selangor, Kun Hui. We collaborate with like fashion icons and brands and stuff. And I think um, it's true collaboration. That is the easiest way. So other than having it a visual representation, this is what we already did to really onboard like the masses, is to bring brands in, and or like projects in, and that is where the community would just flow. It's just like for Asian back then, I didn't even know there's like other Asian women or like Asian people in the Web3 space until I founded my own. And that's when we can start asking questions like, hey, what kind of Asian are you? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm Japanese, I'm Korean, I'm Thai, right? So we definitely first need to have a community first, and then we expand through collaborations. And that is what I'm trying to do. And we are like, oh, and also our last collaboration was with Vogue Singapore as well. So Vogue Singapore has a lot of clients because it's in Singapore. So there's a lot of Asian people in Singapore because that's really close to Malaysia. So that did onboarded a lot of people to my collection as well. I actually reached out to a few holders and they said, hey, I have no idea what Web3 is, but through our Vogue collaboration, I looked into it and it was an Asian and I'm an Asian woman, so I want to support. So I think that is kind of like a snowball effect, right? Yeah.
So maybe since we are online, right? Uh, do you want to do a shout out? Like, who would you wish to collaborate with, and who would you like to see in this space?
Oh wow, that's a okay. I would say my immediate thoughts would be Charles and Keith. Charles and Keith. I
Wow,
mean, yeah, I mean,
wow,
I was already,
that's
yeah, I was
Singapore.
already talking to one of the person because we actually connected. They are in Sandbox as well, so we also had a collaboration with Sandbox. So they are all a part of the ecosystem. I want to collaborate with like fashion brands and also in like Shu Emura. like Japanese or Korean skincare brands, makeup brands. That is what I want to do next. Yeah, so I'm looking towards that direction. Like Shiseido,
That's good. That's good.
L'Oreal. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing. And for those who are hearing this, right, if you know of anyone, right, do contact Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is because if we want to have more Asia representation, we need to really put it out there so that people who was watching, people who's coming in contact of this, they will be able to help us. Because we, as you mentioned, right, it's a community. So if my community be able to support, definitely we would love to support in connecting the dots, because this is something that we should be proud of. And we, if we have a bit of ourselves in this space in the future, and even for, like you mentioned, your kids, right, like my daughter, I have a 14-year-old daughter. So like doing this podcast, Women in Web3, or even my Mompreneur Space podcast, right, is basically creating a legacy for her, so that she has all this wonderful women entrepreneur like you, a fantastic mom who's thriving in the Web3 space, which is going to shape the future for her, right? So what would you say, right? Would you say that women have more opportunity to lead in the Web3 space compared to Web1 and Web2 era, or is it the same? Is it the same opportunity?
Okay, this is really interesting. So the other day I was talking to my friend, and she is in Web3 as well. So Web3 right now, at this current stage, there's a lot of them starts from marketing. Marketing plays a big factor, right? Product, not really, because anyone can just create a digital product. So I do think that as women, we are good marketeers. That is true. In terms of PR skills as well. So I do think that we definitely have an upper hand in terms of having more opportunities in Web3, especially being a woman, in the industry that is filled with men. So I do think that there's a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, it's also how are you going to make full use of your cards, right? So it's definitely, there's definitely a few strategies that you definitely need to strategize, and things like that. At the same time, yeah. So I do think that there's definitely more opportunities for women in this space, especially when we have a product to sell as well. Like in real life, you have a product, you could tie it to a physical thing, and then it could be like a filter, it could be fashion, just like how Coach did. So Coach actually collaborated with this company called, it's an AR VR company. I can't remember it, right? But what happened is they actually built a big AR, like a big screen in front of their storefront. Whoever that walked past by it, you could actually have their latest collection on you. So then, of course, everybody would stop and want to take like a photo of it. So I do think that marketing was so genius, because they didn't even need anyone to stand there. It's just a screen and it's an AR filter, right? So I do think that, especially in Web3, a lot of the technology right now, it kind of relates and appeals to women, because AR VR filter, even like having makeup on, or like trying out a new different shade, it's basically just technology. So I do think that there is a lot of opportunities here for women to explore in terms of fashion, or even being a part of the team. Being a part of a team, you could actually take a community role, and I do think that women, we are better than that. I mean, we are better in doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you talk about community, I do agree with you, because even for my case, right, even with my company, with Consultant 21, we collaborated with this Filipino home-based mom, and now after launching our Web3 masterclass, we have now 5 interns that's working for us. And then ultimately at the end of the internship, we potentially will want to hire one of them, at least one of them, or even all of them. And like you mentioned, one of the roles that one of them, in fact, two of them are taking, right, is community building. They're taking the community role. Like you mentioned, women are natural community builders. Like that's why you always see like mothers will hang out together, women will hang out together, they will shop together. But do you see men shop together? Not really, right? So that's the thing. Like women are naturally community builders. Whether is it building a diverse group of people, women are still good at it. And because women has all these virtues, like empathy, the love, care, concern, which is something that is very fundamental in community building. And that's where when you talk about how can we have more Asian representation, I think women can lead this, because it's about community building, and how you yourself as one, you get your friends, your high school friends, to come together to represent in the Chinese Qi Pao, the Cheongsam. I think you need a community to make a statement. You need a community to come to build a culture. So that's where I think women comes in a lot in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for your case, right, we talk about the opportunity, right? So for you, do you come across any challenges that you face as a women leading in this Asian culture and Asian women in the Web3 space? If there is, how did you overcome it?
Um, Challenges. Well, as an entrepreneur, I think we do face challenges regardless of our gender. Um, Let me think. Well, previously it was just really minor things that kind of bothers you, especially when I was in a lot of conferences. Back then, there wasn't a lot of women in, like, like after party conferences or stuff like that. Then in a room full of guys, right? They would think that I'm just like someone's like assistant. They'll be like, oh, who are you here with? Like, which one is your boss? And I'm like, no, I'm the speaker, right? So I think that was one of it. It wasn't something challenging. It was just a bit annoying back then. But then right now, there are more women in the space, and I don't have that question anymore. And of course, like 2 years ago, before I started Asian, the reason why I started is also because not only I didn't see any Asian representation, but because I was bullied as well. I was in this community. It was like an animal project, and then when they found out that I was an Asian woman, they started calling me out. They started saying that kick her out of the group, everything else. And for me, I heard this saying. It says that if you're not invited to a table, you create your own table. So that is basically what I did, and that's how I founded Asian. But yeah, I do think that as an entrepreneur, in any angles, and especially when you meet so many people, there will definitely be challenges. And of course, people would like judge you, just especially if you're like young, and they always think that you're clueless. A lot of the times people always just tell me, oh, Nicole, like, the reason why you even get to where you are is because you're just pretty. Like, if you're not pretty, you won't be able to get where. So definitely this kind of like stereotypes, and like things do happen, especially, but I do take it as a compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you take it as what we call, when people throw lemon at you, right? You make lemonade out from it. So
Yeah.
you are making the best out of it, and you turn all this, I would say, maybe bullying into something. Hey, it's an opportunity, right? So it's putting on the entrepreneurial hat to really convert all this into something that can help more people. Like you mentioned about, if you have not invited to the table, just create another table. And
Yeah.
that is also what I've seen. Like entrepreneur like us, we see the gap, we see what is lacking,
Yeah.
and we create things. Right? I created this podcast because I don't see anybody was doing it, especially in Asia, and also spotlighting like a man doing this, because like for the previous guest, right, they were saying that um, there's a lot of men that is talking about, like, say, oh, I'm supporting women, I'm championing women, but a lot of them are just lip service. They're
Mm.
just saying, they are not really vocal about it. They are not really out there to really support. And one of them was telling me, oh, Kenneth, I didn't expect that you came all the way for this blockchain fest to really check out the women in Web3 panel conversation. Right. I
Mm.
think, yeah, because I was inspired by you guys, and there is, like you mentioned, there wasn't a lot of women representation in Web3, even in panels discussion. I see a lot of men. Even as a man, I felt that, is that a discussion? And when I stepped into it, I didn't even know that there is a group of women in Web3. Pardon me, but because with that, I think initial start, right, where there is a full panel of women in Web3 that spoke, I think subsequently, right, organizers, right, they recognize that, and they have that, I would say that conscious to really invite women speakers in Web3, and that's where they start to connect. And I hope that having this podcast, right, will let a lot of Web3 organizers know that, hey, in fact, there's a lot of women in Web3 that you can invite them to speak and even have something for them, right? Then they are good at certain things, good at certain topics, be it like Asia representation, NFT for you. I think that could be more conversation that's going on. That's why I hope that this podcast can bring out even represent women as a whole in the Web3 space. So having said that, right, the challenges and all that, what would be the skill set do you think that is necessary to succeed in Web3? Just now you talk about like creating your own table, because that is very entrepreneurial mindset, right? You're putting on the hat of it as an entrepreneur. So what other skills do you think that is necessary to succeed in the Web3
Yeah, so
industry?
one misconception that people think that to be in the Web3 or even to have a company or to even be in Web3, you need to have like a degree in computer science or you need to know how to code, which is not the case. I can't code and nor I can't draw, right? But I do have a really talented team to do that. All I, all you need to succeed actually in any industry is just to be open and to stay curious and always be open to explore new things. Yeah. So as long as you are curious about it, you would you would find a solution as long as you're passionate enough, right? Especially right now, we have like YouTube, we have Google, at the tip of our fingers, and all these resources are free. You could literally know how to code or draw or like do anything just by watching a YouTube video. So as long as you have the will to explore, I do think that you can do anything, in Web 1, 2, 3. So
Yeah. Yeah, especially in any, right, all these skill set, like being curious and also finding what problem you can solve. Like you mentioned, right? You saw there wasn't a lot of representation, women representation or Asian representation, right? You saw that gap and you create a solution. You create that table that you mentioned. There wasn't that table there. Then you create that table so that people can have the sense of belonging. The same thing for me. Why did I created the Mompreneur Space podcast? Because there wasn't anyone that is spotlighting on mompreneurs. And then now with Women in Web3, I think these are opportunity. These are like, because I'm curious, like how many women in Web3 can I invite? Can I do like what I did in for my previous podcast? Am I able to hit at 100? So if I hit to 100, that also shows that there are so many women in Web3, right? That is also a representation. That is also to validate that and also to showcase that there's a lot of women in Web3. So any other skill set that you think that is necessary, not really on Web3, but or how we can have more Asian representation?
I would say, so other than collaboration, other than being a part of a
Hmm.
community, like Asian or like-minded community, to have more Asian representation, maybe you could start your own project. Yeah, start your own project. Yeah, like it doesn't need to be like a PFP collection or a big collection. Yeah, it could be in any form. Yeah, it could be tied up to your brand. You could tie it up to physical merchandises, or even a utility perk, or even like a subscription or a gym membership, or it could be anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the first thing is also to be curious, right? What is Web3? Like for you, you are already trading, you're already buying cryptocurrency and all that, and you are already in that space because you were curious, right? And that is the start of everything. Because once you are in that space, you're curious about the space, and naturally you'll be led to like the podcast, like any podcast or any conferences in Web3 that has the interest of yours, right? That's why the curiosity, like you mentioned, the skill set, or maybe something that you need to have, right, to be able to thrive in any areas. If you want to have more Asian representation, be curious. Be curious. For example, if I'm curious about the Indian culture, so I will go dive deep into Indian culture. What are the things that is not being represented? What are the things that I do not know, right? So, for example, I do not know like who are the women in Web3. So I start with one, then I go to five, and now I have 20, right? Even more. So I think this is when you start with one, basically you are just keeping the momentum going, and this is what I see. right? Like you start with this collection and then it folds into something else. Then now you doing a lot of brands collaboration, and now you're building your community all around the world. And also the other thing is you talk about collaboration, and congratulations of you having the partnership with Snowball Studio for creating your Asian Town, right?
Asian
Asian
Town
Town, right?
in the sandbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe you can, yeah. So can you maybe share a bit more about what is this, because it was just fresh off the oven, right? Yes, just yesterday that you had this media launch or the event.
Yeah,
So maybe you
so
can talk a bit
I'm
about
yeah.
that.
So for those of you who are listening, you might know that last year it was a whole new like hoo-ha of like the metaverse. That's when like Facebook changed their name to Meta, and then all the stocks of all the metaverse just started like plummet, like just like skyrocketing. And that is also where Sandbox gained a lot of their popularity, and they managed to get in really strong, like old established IPs to be a part of the ecosystem. So like Snoop Dogg, Paris Hilton, Steve Aoki, even like all of the like banks, and like any like a lot of industries, right? Industry from like different sectors, they're all inside. And of course, as Asian, we have a long-term vision that we want to be a part of the ecosystem. So we were applying for it, and then we managed to get that. So we announced our participation 2 months ago, or last month. It was a whole launch in Singapore, but yesterday we managed to sign with Sandbox Builder, so Smobbler. So we are gonna be building Asian Town. So Asian Town is gonna be a plot of land that we will be having different Asian experiences and different Asian IPs, and it's gonna be really interesting because it's kind of like a melting pot of Asia, right? So it's like you have like the IPs I was talking about. You know Ju-on? Like in Japan there is this ghost movie where there's a girl crawling out of like the TV screen. Yeah, so
Yep.
I will also be incorporating IPs like that into the land, right? Into in terms of characters,
Wow.
avatars. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spill like so many beans, but I'm Malaysian, and I want to have our iconic twin towers right in the center of it, right? So of course we would have different other heritage and landmarks as well, but Kuala Lumpur would be the center of that Asian town. Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. Once you talk about it, right, I'm getting excited. I can't wait for the Asian Town to come out and really experience, because I think a lot of us will be able to resonate, and even not just for the Asian people. I think um, Westerner will be also interested because they get to have a glimpse of it. So that we are not like, for example, in Singapore, right? A lot of Americans thought that Singapore belongs is a part of China because of our very strong ties with China. They thought that we are a part of it, and that is if let's say we could put us into the map, or even put us into the metaverse to represent. I think you are doing a good thing for Asian to really being open up, because if you look at it, the metaverse, right, a lot of adopters are from the Western side, and Asian are slowly adopting. But with this Asian Town, right, you will also invite more Asian to come on board to experience, to find something they are familiar with, and also to be able to be relatable and connect. And who knows that will be the good place for us to exchange culture, right? Because in Singapore we have this racial harmony day that all different race will come together wearing each other's costume. This is in school, so that is one day that we are celebrating. So I think with this Asian Town, right, you will be able to exchange culture more in the visual way and even communication way. So like, let's say for Twin Tower, maybe a lot of Westerners do not know there's a Twin Tower there, which is so beautiful. So if it can be represented in the metaverse, I think that would be a eye opening for them to really understand more about Asian, and maybe who knows that they will love Asian countries. That would be a job well done if Asian Town is going to be able to represent that. So talking about that, right? Did you mention that when would it be out, roughly when?
Yeah, so we are really excited to have that out. We're thinking to have it launch in early next year. So right now we
Hmm.
are in the brainstorming stage, and then later on we will be producing, and we'll be on the production stage, and then with that, then we'll be able to launch next year. Yeah, so really, really excited to
Wow, wow.
can't wait to share with you guys Asian Town, and also have um, our community as well there. So not only we're gonna be creating experiences, we would want to tie it up with businesses as well, and also in a way where other businesses could come in as kind of like a collaboration, to have their brands featured there, and to have our community kind of go there to have like a little shopping district. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun.
Good, good, good. Yeah, so I think for those who are interested to be a part, especially if you are Asian company, Asian brand, do reach out to Nicole, and because it's good to have everyone onto one space, and also be the representation in Sandbox as an Asian representation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for your case, so since we are on this podcast, which is Women in Web3, right? What advice would you give to women who are interested in pursuing a career or even a business startup in Web3 or any way to step into Web3? Because as we know, right, like your goal is to really get more women to come into Web3, own an NFT, and all that stuff. So, what advice would you give to them if they're interested to kickstart?
Yeah, so I would say definitely spend some time to understand it. And if I mean, at first everything might seem really overwhelming. So it will be good to also be connected to someone that has already been in the space to give you to advise you on the things that you want to do. Is either bringing your existing brand in Web 2 to Web 3, or even starting scratch on your own thing in Web3. And this is why I have my consultancy as well, 8 consultant. So, happy to speak to me and reach out so that we can brainstorm. But I would also say that it'll be good to also be a part of communities that are in Web3. There are a lot of small groups or even, large groups as well, that in your region, or in Malaysia, Singapore, wherever you are. There's definitely groups that are already in Web3. It's good to also have virtual friends around the world, because in order for you to scale in Web3 is through collaboration. You can have like the best product in Web3, but you will never be, I mean, it'll be hard for you to succeed just on your own, right? So yeah, that is my advice.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the advice. And just now you talk about it. And I also believe that Web3, the fundamental is really community building, is knowing people, collaboration, and that could be the first start. And for those who do not know who to follow, you can follow Nicole, especially follow Asian collections. If you plan to have one NFT to start off with, you can look out for one under her 8,888 NFT. So definitely you will be able to find one that you can resonate, or something that you like it, and that would be a good start, because by pursuing that, right, by owning, right, you are entering like one step into Web3, like the first step into Web3, and then the rest will come. The rest will come because you are putting yourself in that space already. So since we were talking about the what advice you already give them, right, to really get started. So what would you say? What do you see women in Web3 playing in shaping the future of businesses and the society?
Wow, this is a big question, but I do think that in overall macro factor, just by having just by having a company, you're already help like benefiting the society, right? By employing staff and also contributing, especially utilizing the technology in Web3, right? So having giving people ownerships to their IPs, like for example, Asian. So if you own an Asian NFT, you actually own the rights to it. So right now, I do think that um, it's it's not being seen at its peak potential yet. But what we did, for example, with our Royal Selangor collaboration, we actually had a really beautiful NFT called the Jade Lady NFT. So the buyer of it was Matt Higgins back then, and he purchased it, so he owns the IP of that. So if you look at Royal Selangor, they only work with big brands, like household names like Disney, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Cinderella, and through that we are able to work on a three-way collaboration. So it's with Asian NFT, the Jade Lady, just one NFT. We made it. We actually created 100 pewter figurines. So we were selling it for retails at 5,000 USD, and it's a three-way collaboration, because for every Jade Lady sold the actual figurine, the royalties, or however much amount is given back to the IP holder. So with that ownership rights, we're actually giving you guys the rights to license your Asian. So I do look at the Asian PFP as the next Mickey Mouse, or the next, IP. It's just like, for example, no matter how many Disney stocks you own, you can never print a Mickey Mouse T-shirt and sell it, no matter how much you own of Disney. But right now, with the evolution of technology, and with the existence of NFT, you're able to do that. Just with NFTs, you're able to do that. Just like how there is this other IP that was really strong called the Bored and Hungry. So what happened is, the founder of Bored and Hungry owns a Bored Ape, from the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So what he did is, he's a chef, so he actually made burgers, like a smash burger, and he actually put his IP of an ape on it, and they have expanded really well. Now they're scaling, and in fact, I'm actually taking the IP to do a pop-up in Singapore this month. So it'll be on 11th of August. Yeah, it's going to
Wow.
be a 10-day pop-up store in Singapore. And then, I'm also looking to bring it to Malaysia. So they have done it really successfully. And this is true NFTs, true Web3. You're able to leverage huge companies that already have a huge name. Just by owning the NFT, just by owning the stocks of it, you're able to create an entire new brand, right? And it's good because you don't need to, because you are leveraging their brand, their IP, and their name. Um, so I do see that this could reshape the future of business in every business, because in every business we are online. We have some visual characters, we have some visual representation of whatever industry you are. Even in like a construction industry, they even have like little IPs that they created on their website, a chat box, even like the airlines. So those, imagine having a established NFT as your chat box, AI girl, right? So that could elevate the whole user process and everything else. So I do think that right now we have just experienced, we have just kind of unlocked the potential. I mean, we haven't fully unlocked the potential of Web3. Yeah, especially with NFTs. Yeah.
Wow, wow. When you say that, it give me another perspective that, oh, in fact, owning an NFT, having that ownership of these digital assets, right? And it's not just a digital asset, it's also the digital IP that you own, that you can create. Like you talk about the chef making it into a burger, because this IP already has its own following, and the brand itself has already done so much branding, marketing, publicity, and also the community building, like for like owning. So correct me if I'm wrong, so meaning that if I own an Asian PFP, right? So if let's say I own this, I'm able to create, let's say, a collaboration with another toy
Yeah.
manufacturer to really produce this
Yeah.
and sell,
And
or maybe create a doll out of this
yeah,
and
of
also to
course. So
sell.
if you look at our website, asian.io, if you go down to the terms and condition, there's a updated licensing right? So it clearly states there that if you own an Asian NFT, you have the full rights to commercialize and to have it as personal use. So that is a big factor. But of course, not every NFT project is the same. You need to go to the website and read the licensing.
Yeah.
A lot of artists that creates NFT, they actually sells it to you, but you don't own the rights to it. So you can print it and put it at your house, but you
Mm.
can't print it to sell, of course, because they're an artist.
Not
That's
for
not for
commercial,
commercial.
right?
But for Asian, same as Yuga Labs, like the Bored Ape, you have the rights to do so. So yeah.
Mm. Thanks a lot. I think this is very good for those who are new to Web3 or even own an NFT, do not know that you can have the rights. But definitely it's all in the disclaimer or the fine prints when you own it. And thanks for sharing that, because even I personally, right, I didn't know about that. Right.
We learn every day.
Yeah. So
I'm also
thanks for
learning every
sharing.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't know everything. Yeah, so yeah.
And it's evolving, right? Like NFT is evolving, like you say. It was one thing I think that everybody should take note, right, is that uh NFT, the potential of NFT is still so huge, but now we are only seeing on the like maybe the tip
Mm,
of the iceberg,
yeah.
right? It's not the full, it's not unleashing its full the full potential yet, because everybody is learning, and also how to create use cases. And like you mentioned, right, coming out with the collaboration with Royal Selangor, like because I went to KL and I saw that they have a was it boutique.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have their own boutique, and they will have like Marvel IP, Disney IP, and the sculptures that they created is like wow, it's mind blowing. And having that being represented, right, I think it is such a um, something that is so great, right, that you are be able to be a part of a company that is doing so much amazing things. So thank you for sharing. So time really flies, and really want to ask more question, get you to share more. So do you have any upcoming projects or initiative that you're currently working on in the Web3 space or in Asian that you can share with us?
Yeah, so for me, so in the past, I used to be in the F&B industry. I actually sold everything just to go full time on NFT, simply because I just enjoy being in this space. So right now, I have always had that interest in F&B. So the ones that I shared, Bought and Hungry, I'm actually talking to like I've been talking to the brand to see how I can expand it in Asia, and that will be F&B as well. But then that will be an NFT FM, like NFT related. So that is something that excites me. On top of that, I am currently advising 3 projects on 8 consultant. One of them, it would be a movie, so it would be coming out as a movie. And then she has done 3 successful Netflix movies in the past. So that is something that I'm working on. I would reveal more details hopefully on November this year. Yeah,
Wow.
but for Asian, we just had the Sandbox, press conference yesterday, and yeah, we are going to be building the Asian town. So really excited to do that. I can't wait to share with you guys, and also to kind of incorporate all the other brands in as well. Because for Asian town, I don't want it to just be, oh yeah, it will just be a town full of Asian buildings and heritage. No, so I want it to be also in trend, or even kind of activated it with existing events that is happening. So it's just like we actually have a lot of rave parties, events happening all throughout Asia. And I have spoke to, so I'm actually working really closely with this company called Web TV Asia, and they always have like concerts, events, and everything else. They have an upcoming concert in Vietnam on September. It's called Gen Fest. So we work on a collaboration where we will be having a huge blowout like Asian. It's gonna be like 20 feet tall. It's gonna be like Asian, right? So that is something that I'm really excited working on, kind of bringing the Web3 IP, bringing back to like the Web2 people. So 30,000 people will be there at the concert. And this is why for Asian Town as well, in the future, once we have that ready, we want to incorporate that. We want to bring in those activations as well in the sandbox, in the metaverse, so that anyone can just tune in and look at it. And not just that, we could also bring in, we could also be a platform where we could be selling tickets as well. So it's a one, like it's basically a platform where you could buy your tickets, you could have fun, you could earn tokens, you could, you know, engage and have fun. So that is my vision for the sandbox, and I think the sandbox team is doing a fantastic job, regardless of the market. I mean, despite the market. So yeah, that is something that I'm really excited about. I feel this whole space still excites me, although the market hasn't been doing really well. But yeah.
That's good. Thanks for all the updates. And I think I myself definitely will be more excited and also want to stay tuned. So how can they get connected with you? Maybe you can
Oh
share
yeah,
with
sure.
them.
So I'm really active on Instagram. My handle is 8sianmom, 8sianmom. My website, so the website for 8sian is 8sian.io. For consultancy, it's 8consultant.io. Yeah, sometimes I'm on Twitter as well. I feel that there's a lot of platforms. Oh, now it's not called Twitter anymore. Now it's called X. So I'm on X,
Yeah.
the same handle, 8sianmom. So yeah, can't wait to connect with other inspiring entrepreneurs, not just mom, like women, men, anyone. And thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to
You're welcome.
be here.
Yeah. So I'm also excited for all the upcoming things that you'll be having. So now we are coming to the end, but there will be tradition which you already answered the question of the day posted by the previous guest, and now it's your turn for you to post your own question of the day to the next guest. So what will be your question of the day?
Oh wow. Okay, let me think. Okay, if
It can
there
be
is
anything.
one food where you can then that you can eat like forever, what would it be?
So food, right?
One food
FOOD, right? So if there is one food, what
that
would
you
it
can
be?
eat
Is it
for the rest of your life, what would it be?
that you can eat for the rest of your life? What would it be, right? Okay, well
Oh
that
wait,
that is something
I
that
want
I
to add
never.
another. So, without getting fat.
So for the rest of your
Yeah,
life
without
without
getting
getting
fat.
fat.
Yeah.
Well, that is tough.
I mean, they
That is
like
tough. Okay, what
pizza.
would
I don't know, ice cream.
pizza will not get fat? Oh, okay. Oh, you mean the prerequisite is that you can eat all this but without getting fat.
Yeah,
It could be those
like
sinful food, right? So
like
what
just
would it
one
be?
food. Oh,
Okay, so the question of the day posted by Nicole is if there is one food that you can eat for the rest of your life without getting fat, what would it be? So this question goes out to the next guest of Women in Web3 podcast. Uh, and I think this question is very suitable for women to answer because without getting fat, definitely you will go for the food that you really love. Yeah, so thanks a lot for this question of the day. So next guest, get ready for this question of the day. So last but not least, thank you, Nicole, for having this time accepted my invitation to share so much about Asia representation. And you are truly a trailblazing this path in representing Asia for in your business, in your company, in your NFT. And this is something that I would say that keep going and really make us proud, bringing all the Asian culture to the world, especially in the Web3 space, because we need more. And I think with you leading this space, right, we will have more women, with more Asian coming into this Web3 space and really be proud of what we have. Like even for Asian directors, in any ways that they could contribute in the Web3 space. So thank you very much. And I would thank for those who are watching the replay, listening to podcast. Thank you for coming to tune in to Women in Web3 podcast, where we continue to share inspiring stories of women in Web3, be it in Metaverse, be it in NFT. So thank you very much. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys. Thank you, Nicole. Bye
thank you.
bye.